Welcome to Jude, the podcast. I'm David Jude. I'm your host for the podcast, as always. With me is Stacy. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah, good.
Yep. I'm a little nervous, but I'm starting to ease up to this whole podcast thing. It's kind of fun. So
it is fun, isn't it?
I've enjoyed it. I don't like how I sound, but I'm warming up to the fact, and I think we can get a lot of information out that explains things to people. So
yeah,
let's give it a shot.
Yeah, that's right. I think you sound great, by the way. Yeah,
a little country twang.
It's okay.
Can't get them out now, the girl.
It's okay. Well, we're going to continue with our PI series that we've been recording and releasing along the way. I think there's a lot of good stuff that we do as a company, and it kind of touches on the PI world. Although this one may be just a little bit different. It's not exactly part of the role of private investigator.
Not at all.
Not
at all. It just gets me involved, I think.
It just gets you involved.
Sure.
But it is something that our private investigation firm allows us to do. So it's another service line that we have. I would tell you that it's invaluable to us, and it just gives us a different angle, edge, piece of leverage maybe in service to our clients. And it's something that's, I don't want to say it's overlooked, but we just have a unique example because of
I think
there's
an education deficit, especially in my opinion, in Kentucky. So where I'm finding there's a disconnect between nurse consultants in Kentucky and the rest of the United States, or in certain areas of the United States, is what I'm finding. It's a little hard to get my foot in the door. So
yeah.
We've had a lot of people. I'm a member of a lot of groups on Facebook and on LinkedIn about legal nurse consulting. And so what you find is a lot of nurses that are just tired of the bedside, tired of doing everything, or trying to get into this LNC world. And they want a leg in, mentorship, anything like that. And so what I thought I would do is just share my story, because it's slow going. You're trying to build up your reputation and build up clientele. But I found a true love partnering with your business and providing a service line more in the criminal world versus what all nursing can do. So LNCs, let's kind of back up. A legal nurse consultant has pretty much it's been around for a while, but it's just now starting to become more and more in the mainstream media, to where people are like, well, what is that? And so when I first started this, was 5 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Came on with the company, and we went to an attorney conference or something like that, and people just didn't understand what we did.
Yeah.
And when you're green and you don't really know, you're not real assertive in trying to convey that message. So I thought this would be a great avenue to try to mention to people what we do, what we're there for, how we can help the service lines, or help anybody, and open up the door for that. So,
I agree with you. It does seem to be, there does seem to be an education deficit with the service that you're providing. It seems a lot like, and we have some core attorneys that you've worked with that get it, but some of the others seem like, I'm not sure how to use you.
They would prefer to hire a physician, or they use their paralegals. So we're fairly interchangeable. We just don't have a JD, and we are not paralegal educated, somewhat.
But to me, that still indicates the education gap to say, yeah, I get you want to hire the medical doctor or whatever for your expert or whatever, but you've got 30 years of experience here that is invaluable to the case. It's what they need.
Right.
And then you can hire the experts or whatever.
Sure.
But something else that you said too, it also feels like a really crowded space suddenly, maybe just because you're more involved in it. But
no, I think it's inundated, and that's the problem. Is everybody's like, well, how do I start getting cases? Well, it's because everybody wants to do it. And so I think prior to probably the last 10 years or so, I had a lot of friends that I worked with when I worked in CTU that did that on the side, and they had an attorney friend that would be like, hey, let me send you these medical records. Sorry. Let me send you these medical records and tell me what you think. So there was a lot of that went on, but there was no course. There was really no, like, I'm certified in this, whatever. So it was more of a just educate the attorney kind of thing. And so a lot of my friends did that on the side. So once I started, I guess going back with me, I've got 30 years experience. All of it was mostly in critical care and physical and rehab medicine, as well as administration. I've pretty much finished out my career in quality as well as senior leadership. And so I started seeing a change prior to COVID. That's what everybody asks, is did you get burned out during COVID? No, it was prior to COVID. I started seeing a little bit of a change that I necessarily didn't agree with. You know, when you've been a nurse for 30 years, you're evolving every single day with what the new standards are, or what is the expectation, or, you know, I could IV push Finnegan, but that's a complete no-no now. We used to mix lidocaine in with our potassium runs, and that's a no-no now. And so that's a challenge, you know, to adapt over time. And so at some point I started kind of getting a little frustrated, because what I've done for 29 years isn't acceptable anymore, or you have to adapt and change. And so you see a lot of these nurses that are kind of like in this limbo. They don't know where to go. So about 5 years ago, when you were really starting to get really busy with the company, I thought, well, you know, and some of it he would just ask questions. Well, if somebody got shot in the whatever, you know, and he wouldn't talk about the cases. He would just ask me questions like, what happens to the body when this happens? And so I would explain those things to him. And so that's how it kind of grew.
Yeah. From, you know, like, from, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Interject on
You're
that
good.
same point there. You know, for me, working a criminal case, as you're trying to understand what causes a death or causes whatever we're looking at, let's say a death in this case, or maybe a murder case. Mm-hmm. It was important for me to try to understand, you know, if a bullet goes through the chest area of a victim, what is that bullet doing, and what's the body doing to react to that? And it just helps us understand, or helps me understand, you know, really what that victim is feeling at that particular point. You know, I don't know those things. I can, from a high level, say, oh, well, it must have done this. But you have a lot more intricate knowledge that, well, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And it really starts to build this full picture. Mm-hmm. That what I found is just not talked about. I think it's incredible that we are able to do that. It's different. So if we back up, because people are going to say, how do I get into it? How do I do this? There are programs that you can pay high dollar for that will give you the curriculum that you probably need to understand, you know, legal systems, how attorneys work, things like that. So you're looking at, you know, truly online learning, 24 modules, a butt ton of cash. You can also do it without any of that. However, if you want to be like an expert witness, they're going to want you to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. That's not what I want to do. I don't do well under that type of pressure. If I was probably being cross-examined, I am an incessant talker when I'm nervous. And so that's the last thing you want on the stand. I'll be honest with you. So I would have to be really conscious and really coached hard to not, because I'm a talker. So that's not going to be my strong point. But like we said with the PI world, I call it that blue sky theory, right? Mm-hmm. That it's this wide open expanse of where you fit. You're saying you see that the same in the legal nurse consulting world.
Oh, sure. So let's kind of back up. So there are a couple programs that you can do. You don't have to. I'll be honest with you. The biggest thing with the LNC is that they're a registered nurse who can use their clinical expertise and knowledge of healthcare to consult on medically related legal cases. So you act as a liaison and you go in between the medical and legal fields, providing valuable insight to attorneys, insurance companies, government agencies, or healthcare facilities. So like their key responsibilities would be that you obviously look and analyze medical records, identify standards of care. That's very important that you identify the standards of care for the timeline that you're talking about. So if it's a case that didn't have a statute of limitations, you know, from 7 years ago, you need to look at those standards, because I can tell you right now that 7 years ago, the standards are a lot different than they are post-COVID. So you have to compare apples to apples. You would educate legal teams. That's what I find that I like to do best. When they're asking questions, I will do to my best ability. I'm not a physician. I do not claim to be one, and I will tell them, you need a physician for these questions, or let me hook you up with some physicians, you know, that can help us. So you do a lot of sometimes finding the expert witnesses for the team. You can screen them. they don't know what questions to ask. So, for example, if you're looking at a case and you're like, it just smacking you right in the face that there's some major issues here, they may not see it that way, and they may not know. And so, for example, when we were talking about Manny, the very first thing that just ate me alive was that the medical examiner report contradicted itself multiple times from measurements, like from left side, right side. It made me crazy because to me, if I went to court, that's the first thing I would go as a strategy. I'm not an attorney. I can't say that. But my first strategy would be to pick apart the medical examiner. How can you rule that a homicide if you can't even get the anatomical measurements correct on the body?
Yeah, there were some examples of, I remember having that conversation with you, which is why it's so confusing to me. One measurement may say from the left side of the body and the next one may say from the right side of the body. And so I needed your expertise to look at that to say, I don't have a clue what that is. And you were able to come in and say, I think they've just measured at 2 different times from 2 different places, and they're not consistent in their measurements. So
you look at that. You look at, you can assist in case preparation, depositions. You can help draw up the questions for the attorneys, things that you need to focus on. They don't know, most what I see is they request every medical record from the dawn of time. Well, you probably don't need that. If the incident was regarding a blood pressure medication, you can focus, if they were there 3 months, that's a horrific medical record to go through. So not everything's important, even though the attorneys are going to ask for everything, and that's great. But like several cases I've seen is, no, you need a pattern of office visits. You need a pattern of their outpatient labs. They're asking for the hospital record, which is not complete. And so that's a lot of our role is just to identify, well, there was a trend here that got him in the hospital. Why didn't they see it in the office? Or why, there's just factors at play.
You said something interesting there that you're a liaison between the medical world and the legal world, and it's important, I think, to say, as obvious as it may sound, attorneys are not doctors. Attorneys are attorneys. They practice law. They don't practice medicine. And that's a great way to summarize what you do. You're this liaison. You're a consultant between, and I should say a cost-effective one, instead of hiring a medical doctor at a astronomical hourly rate, which they are. They don't even know if they need that at this point because they're attorneys. They're not medical people. So you are able to come in as that consultant or that liaison to do a nice review for them and educate the attorneys.
Right. So I've had, we look at case merit, any type of, you can even, I'm not into the damages, but there are actual roles that a lot of these legal nurse consultants get in with insurance companies, that when there's a massive catastrophic injury or death or whatever, and they go to court, they already have the figures. Now, one of the cases you worked with, they actually hired a forensic statistic person to come up with what the damages should be awarded, but legal nurse consultants can do that. They know what, if they're going to require a caregiver for the rest of their life, lost wages, some medical supplies, they can do all that. So there's 100 different branches that a legal nurse consultant can go into. So when you want to do that, you have to have 5 years experience at the bedside. And then you cannot sit for the boards until you have 2,000 hours of billable time. So if you want that certification, do you have to have it? No. A lot of the attorneys want it. They really do. Obviously, if you're an expert witness, you want to have it, and you most of what I'm seeing is that they still want you practicing in that field of specialty. So if you're going to be an expert witness in pediatrics, you better be at the bedside still working somewhat, be it PRN or something. But
that
you
makes
have
sense,
to be active.
They're logically saying that keeps you current with current best practices.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to be a fact investigator, like you kind of are. Educate whoever needs to be educated. I wouldn't care to educate, be an educational type witness. But as far as an expert witness, unless it's critical care, like my cardiac background or telemetry kind of experience, I've been out of it a little too long, like out of the bedside of the ICU. I can tell you what's wrong and that this isn't right. But as far as really being an expert witness, I'm just not comfortable doing that. And a lot of people aren't. I mean, they don't want to be that expert. I would much rather get your bigger bang for the buck by hiring a physician to do
but that highlights, to me, that highlights the value that you bring. Is you're not trying to be that end role. You're just educating the people on what you need, and then you can help them find what you need.
Sure.
Some of these folks don't even know if they have a case, right? You get stuff, and that's the task.
Yeah. So kind of a few attorneys have to me, it's hard to get your foot in the door. So my friends already had friends that were attorneys. And so when I did this starting out, it's like when you try to educate at any type of conference, they're just looking at you like, what? But that's not the case otherwise. Other people that I'm, friends with in these groups are so busy, they subcontract out for more help. And so for me, it's been a little hard to get my foot in the door, mainly because you were probably doing criminal defense. It's not medical mal. A lot of the attorneys hire in-house their own person, or their paralegal does a lot of these type of things, or they may be a nurse that's now a paralegal because it's not too much schooling versus your JD or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways to go. But kind of what I found is when I first started working with a few of these attorneys, they would be like, I've got this great case for you. And they send it to me and I read through it and there's nothing there. Like, I'm like, they're not the patient wasn't compliant. The patient didn't do this. They didn't do that, and so you feel terrible because you go back to the attorney and you're like, there's no case here. I mean, they'll chew you up in court because this patient wasn't compliant. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. But I'm finally figured, so at first that's really hard because you're trying to impress these guys and you really want to get on board and be their, their girl.
Yeah.
And you're telling them, no, there's no case. There's no case. Well,
I think that's more valuable than the other part.
Well, and actually one of them actually ended up telling me, they're like, you're saving me time, because he doesn't promise to his clients. So when they come in and give the sob story, they're like, we'll take a look at it and then I'll let you know. I have had a few, okay, we're on it. And then, that's terrible. That's a bad situation to be in, is because there's no case there. It's not for me to say that you have a case. I relay, after I review the records, a lot of times you communicate, what are they upset about? What do they think was wronged? Look at that. And these are the obstacles you're going to have to overcome. These are some barriers. This is positive points that look good for you. And the attorney makes that decision.
Yeah,
if he
it's not
wants
your
to
decision.
Try.
You're just saying, listen,
these are some battle. These are some big battles you're going to have. And so they make that determination. It's kind of unfortunate because I really never hear what happes.
Yeah.
So you really wished you had that closure. Like, yeah. And so we did have a friend that I did a medical one on that gave us a little bit of information of, hey, we got a first offer or something like that, which was pretty exciting because I think I did a good job.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how, legal nurse consulting kind of starts out. You can, God, there's so many different areas to work with. So for me, I don't get that many cases. I mean, I'm trying to build quickly. You could probably work as much as you want. So
you're thinking about hiring a private investigator, huh? Think knowledge, experience, and trust. Think DPJ Consulting. Listen, we're the folks you want on your team. Whether it's a criminal matter, corporate, or administrative issue, or maybe something more personal, you need to make the right choice for you. Our house of expertise at DPJ Consulting can help you with investigations, and that can mean a whole lot of different things. Pre-employment background checks, personal VIP security, and so much more. Check us out at dpjconsulting.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, or give us a call at 855-TEAM-DPJ. That's 855-TEAM-DPJ. Give us a call. It costs nothing to talk. It costs you everything if we don't. But it seems like you've targeted also the sweet spot that you had so far seems to be the small legal firm. Yeah. One or two people there, right? Those attorneys, they don't have a lot of resources. They're not the
big ones.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to say.
The country's largest
law firm
who no doubt hires, they probably employ all kinds of people. So yeah. At this point, you're not going after those large.
Right. They probably already have their people on staff that are medically trained, that are either dual paralegals and nurses or retired nurses, whatever. They're already in the bag. Yeah. And so people ask, well, what's your salary? Now, for me, in order to entice, I am lower than what most legal nurse consultants charge. But I look at it as I'm new. I'm starting out. I don't have my certification. People don't know that much about me. And so until they learn, here's my work product, then to me, that's the right thing to do. I'm not going to come in here and ask for a ton of money when I don't even have it together.
Well, I think that's important, right? As you two things. One, you, and then two, the company. As we try to grow the service line, you've not, I don't think you've fallen for the rhetoric that, hey, this is the next $1 million idea just because you've been a nurse, or similar to me, just because I've been to police, right? You're saying, listen, I need to build my clientele. I need to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so you have offered a lowered, reduced rate.
Yeah.
In order to get that experience and to get some folks underneath your, it's like cases under your belt, not folks, but cases under your belt.
Well, so like there's a lot of times there's a lot of networking. They'll subcontract. Hey, I need somebody, because they usually want you licensed in the state that you're in. So if the trial's in Kentucky, you need to have a Kentucky nurse or whatever. So you'll get, from time to time on the job sites, you'll have posting for subcontracting. And so repeatedly I'm getting back, once I send my CV in and the fee schedule that I charge, I'm repeatedly getting back, hey, you are way too low. You're way too low. And I'm thinking, well, then why my door getting knocked down? You know, I'm not doing a lot of promoting like I should. This is probably the first promoting I've done in several years. But, you know, life gets in the way. Yeah. I was say life gets in the way. Grandma gets in the way there a little bit. I've enjoyed that. So we're starting to get back settled down between all the health family issues and being a new grandma, that I'm ready to kind of get back in it and really, you know, keep my foot in the door and get this rolling a little bit. So what I have found, you know, you can look at 100 different things with LNC and where you want to go. They do everything from, hang on, let me look real quick. There's insurance adjusting. There's criminal. I've already named a lot of those. A lot of people do like utilization review. You don't have to be an LNC to do that. That's a nursing job now.
What's utilization review?
Making sure everything's documented correctly.
Oh.
And so that's the I don't know how to say it. As a nurse coming in, attorneys don't realize that when nursing is so short staffed, there are a lot of things that don't get documented. So when you're trying to go to court, they're just thinking, you know, like for instance, I had this one case. I don't want to talk too much about cases, but I had this one case they consulted me on. I wasn't real comfortable with it because it was a pediatric case, and that's not my specialty. However, I can look at it and evaluate it for, was there neglect in the case? Was there, you know, some type of, you know, were they was the intent to hurt the child there? Things like that. So I felt pretty comfortable with that. Well, when I looked at it, I said, you know, the bottom line is, I guarantee if you go pull all the clinic records, all the medical records, all the everything, staff has not documented that people were educated, that the family was educated, and that they demonstrated it back, which you, as a nurse, you all know that is the number one thing you've got to have in there when you teach somebody, that they understood it, they could show it back to you, demonstrate it, whatever. It was lacking. And I really think what happened is in this case, it was probably a fairly neglectful family. The kids survived. They were just temporarily, you know, had an issue. It wasn't anything that changed their life or altered their life. It did not kill them, injure them. It just was, I think people got tired of dealing with the family. And so at one point when they had repeatedly filed for Child Protective Services, their investigation was unfounded. They end up doing it again. Well, at that point, when they reported them again to the state, their documentation was impeccable. And so to me, when you're reading all that, you're like, listen, you guys were a hot mess from the front end. You've gotten tired of this family that is not very good with their kids. They're uneducated. Mm-hmm. They don't get it. So you've had enough. And so now you're gonna let them hang themselves, which is true. I mean, they still screwed up, but your documentation didn't reflect that you had done everything you could do to make sure that this family understood these children's diagnosis and that how to take care of them. And so to me, that's a failure. I mean, if you can't go after somebody if you don't have that, you taught them 100 times, they showed you they knew how to do it, and then they chose not to. Mm-hmm. The documentation was not there that they ever showed them anything.
And so coming from my world, touching a little bit into yours, how we overlap a little bit, I would never think of that. That doesn't stand out to me as something that a legal team would naturally think of, right? And so what I'm trying to say is you bring that expertise mm-hmm. into at least what we do to say, yeah, that's number one. If you can't prove that you taught them, how you hold them responsible for that?
Right.
Yeah.
We've had other cases that, you know, if the family's perception is so different than what is actual. So I think there was one case that this the attorney was contacted. This family said that the guy lost his leg because he had these boots on and nobody ever took them off. And, they let his leg rot off. And so when you read the records, they were wraps for swelling. And the documentation was, it was awesome. He was a non-compliant patient that smoked, probably ate a salt shaker full of salt with every single meal. Every documentation of home health had said, please prop your feet up. You have 3 and his legs were weeping with edema. And, what he tells the attorney is that, well, I lost my leg because they never took my boots off. Well, it was documented that on multiple occasions when they came to rewrap, that's not a boot that has to come off every day. It's wrapped and they rewrap it for edema. That he had taken them off himself, he had manipulated them, things like that. And so that once you read that, the attorney only heard what the patient said. And if you took that verbatim, absolutely he has a case. He lost his leg over that, or if
Yeah, how shocking, right?
Yeah, like how did they not come back and ever fix the boot? And I'm thinking, but once I read it, I realized they're wraps. It wasn't anything like that. And it was documented every single visit how non-compliant he was.
Yeah.
So there's really, you can go to trial. I said that. I was like, but these are the obstacles you're going to encounter is because he just is, he's done it to himself because, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. They had educated him. He told him he knew how to do it. And, it could be he say, she said, but most of the time what you find is nursing doesn't have time to document those things. And so even though they may or may not have done it, it's not documented. Well, the rule in nursing is if it ain't documented, it ain't done, Right. So that's been a challenge. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you? As far as Manny, I think we talked in that other aspect of Manny. The criminal defense.
Manny, the crime scene mannequin. That was on
the previous episodes. We were talking about our Manny. Yeah. I've enjoyed the criminal defense side of things. One, because it doesn't really get me as an expert witness on the stand. It just is an educational piece to bridge law enforcement as well as the attorneys. I'm not getting out of breath. I'm talking so fast. I am a fast talker.
Yeah.
So with Manny, when we had this, I'll touch back on it again. Essentially, it was 14 bullet wounds?
Something like that, yeah. There was a case, and again, we've talked about this on a criminal defense episode where Stacy came in as our nurse consultant to help me and our legal team understand injury patterns. We had what the government was calling an execution because the defendant had fired so many rounds. We turned that back into saying it's not an execution. There's movement and there's patterns. By looking at the work that Stacy did, we were able to make sense of what our defendant said happened and put some truth to that by saying, hey, by looking at these injury patterns, we're seeing something different. There's a whole different story. And ultimately, the client did plead guilty, but to a much reduced charge, which is really what we're after in the criminal justice system. So anyway, you helped out tremendously on that. We are so glad to have Ugly Tent as a sponsor to the show. My longtime friend Kenny Dietrich is a subject matter expert in modern survival, bushcrafting, and preparedness. As he challenges on the show, be prepared for the disaster most likely to happen to you. But let me tell you, Ugly Tent is so much more than just disaster preparedness. You need to check out the website at uglytent.com. That's UGLYTENT.com for a complete list of their products, their classes, and all the services that Kenny offers. There's a lot that I think you'll find interesting at uglytent.com. Again, just a neat place to go. So whether it's for camping, maybe it's a hike, maybe it's just trying to be in the outdoors for a little bit, uglytent.com is filled with the products and the services that you want. Not to mention you have a true expert as a resource for you. Listen, while you're there, use the promo code JUDE, that's lowercase JUDE, and that code will get you 10% off your total purchase. That's a pretty good deal for some really cool stuff. Anyway, check out Kenny at uglytent.com.
And it's funny because Dave and I differed on opinions on what we thought really happened too. And it's not my job to interpret it. It's just my gut, what I would say if I was a juror versus what I found. That was kind of interesting. With it, even within the company, we disagreed on what we thought, but the facts still show that there was movement. There was these things going on. It wasn't truly an execution. So
yeah,
that's kind of interesting. But,
yeah, as we said, the facts will take us where we need to go. And
sure, yeah,
you were certainly a critical part of helping understand what those facts were.
That was probably the funnest or the most fun that I've done, just because it was a pretty intense autopsy report. But that also helps us too. In the medical examiner's report, we realized that we didn't have the pictures. And so when we talk about on the last few episodes of making sure that we have everything we need for discovery, they were unaware that there wasn't pictures there. And all I had in the medical side, you're talking about all these wounds, and there was a knife found, and this was found, and this was found. I'm like, where is all the documentation for this? So it helps when we work together. It helps us know, hey, I need these other medical records, or I need this report, or whatever. And so that's pretty useful.
I think it's been super critical for us to offer something different to our legal teams. And we talked about education to kick this off. Well, it's been no different in how we use you in our criminal cases.
Sure.
They may hire me for a criminal defense case, but don't understand they also are getting a nurse consultant that can help look at these things. They just don't know. They don't they don't know what they don't know.
Right. And so there's a lot of that. Because to me, if I was an attorney, I'd say, well, I'm just going to hire the expert. But you're not really sure. What I'm finding is the ones I'm starting to work with, kind of they let me guide them. Well, do I need a labor and delivery expert, or do I need a pediatric expert, or a NICU nurse? And I'm like, well, because they would just get a pediatric physician. That may not be what they need. And so they may need something that's more, postpartum or intermittent or something like that. So it's been interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think that's invaluable. Right. And for those that aren't in this world, right, that is the answer. Well, I'll just hire an expert. I don't need to hire this intermediary, which would be you in a nurse consulting role. I'll just hire the expert. Well, you don't know what expert to hire.
Right.
You actually don't know what you're trying to prove or disprove. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, you can waste a lot of money on somebody.
Oh my gosh, fast,
that they're
quick,
just paying,
and then have the wrong expert.
Right.
Which doesn't help anybody.
So what I found that's starting to be a little bit more helpful, kind of is the one attorney that I work pretty closely with. He's wonderful. Can't say enough about him. He will send me preliminary now. Like he's starting to learn the way I do things. I'm trying to learn his preferred manner of how he does things. And so what he's doing is he'll say, I have a case for you. Let me send it to you in Dropbox. Tell me what you think. So before he really promises the clients anything, he lets me do a glance over and just see if there's something there, if there's not. Now, unfortunately, a lot of them have not. But there's a few on there that have been, and they've been like, hey, you got some major problems here. And so it kind of helps guide that to where he knows what he's up against, what his time frame is. Because in Kentucky, I believe you only have 2 years to file a medical mal after the notation of the incident. So like if you know something bad happened January 1st, you have 2 years to January 1st to go ahead and file your lawsuit.
And this particular attorney, he's a hustler.
Oh my gosh.
And so, he's out trying to earn cases. And so he doesn't want to spend his time trying to read through all these things that he truly probably doesn't understand anyway. And so your value really shines through for him.
Yeah. Because he's a small practice. And so the other day I actually got somebody from one of his assistants and I was like, oh my gosh, he's growing. But yeah, so that I save him time is what he has told me. He's like, it's great. If it's not a case, then let's move on and find something else. Now, I did get a little frustrated at him because I had a really good one that he turned down for somebody else, and that attorney got a huge paycheck. Yeah. So that one's still killing me.
That's okay,
I'm happy for either one of them. But
that's right.
But yeah, so speaking of this case, and I don't want to go into specifics because I think it's still active, but what I found that was very helpful is I had a friend of a friend that had asked me, hey, you need to look at this case, blah, blah, blah. And I really didn't think he was serious, to be honest with you. And he was like, no, I need you to look at my family's medical records. Like this is an issue. So I did, and sat down and met with the family and just kind of explained the expectations that your understanding of something may be different than my understanding of something. And that, it doesn't make sense to you, but my role is to either explain to you why or why not you may have a case, you may not have a case, and educate you If I think that there's something there to it, I can provide everything kind of written up in my reports of the issues that I find that are kind of, deviate from the standards of care or just that are odd, and kind of get that wrapped up really nicely for your attorney. And I can give you some referrals, or you find your own, whatever, but that it's your own package. So I kind of went almost like freelance. And I think that worked out really well for me, because when you work through an attorney, you don't contact the client at all. Like, that's not your place. You're there to review the medical records. And I found in a few of these cases, I've had to actually reach back out to the attorney and be like, hey, is there any way I can talk to these people? Because I'm not getting what they're upset about or whatever. And so you would never do that unless you know that the legal team is on board with that. And so I've had to do that a few times. And like I said, once you start developing a working relationship, you realize how people work. And so we're kind of at that point now that when he contracts me for a case, he is actually telling me exactly what the client says that their issue is, what he's reviewed, and that he needs help in these areas. And so it's very specific, which saves us all time and money. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Seems like you always find there's some dots yet to be connected.
Sure. Or I can also at that point tell him, I need you to pull these records. There should be clinic visits. There should be outdoor, they went to here at this date. I just don't, you're missing some stuff that will help. Or some of it's not important. I mean, Nick can send you 2,000 pages of vital signs. It doesn't mean anything to me because that's not what the issue is. Or I might need the one day of vital signs. That's right. It, not 2,000 pages. So kind of what I found is when I spoke to this client about a wrongful death or a potential wrongful death, she told me what she was upset about. She told me some things that even as a nurse, I'm like scratching my head thinking, they told you that, or what happened, and so there was just a lot that just didn't sound right. And I said, yeah, go ahead and get your medical records. Let's start going through that, because that takes a lot of time. So if an attorney's doing it for you, that will take a lot of time. And so I said, go ahead and get your stuff together. Let me look at it, and then I'll let you know. So I didn't charge her. I don't think I charged her too awful much. Definitely a lot less than an attorney would.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
For the work that I did, and prepared it in a report of what my gut feelings were, kind of, what I think, and where to go next, and gave her attorneys to call. And so she did. And ultimately, I believe she got off a first. It did not go to trial, but I think she's gotten a pretty substantial first offer.
Now, is this, again, no details here, but is this the case that when you read it, you thought there was nothing there, but when you talked to the patient,
yes,
or they, I don't remember if boy or girl, yes, they gave you a
totally different.
Yeah, here's what I'm really complaining about.
Oh no, that was the other one.
Oh, okay.
Other case. And that I don't know where that's at right now. I
Okay.
gave him my information, and that's it. This one was a cardiac case.
Oh.
And involving cath lab, and just some bad stuff happened.
Yeah.
So, and just conversations that she, was the comments that people said to her, I thought was a really red flag. Like, she could have not been telling me the truth. I don't know, but I believed her. It made sense. Mm-hmm. All of it was very odd. And so, they were, the attorney was able to land some really good experts from way, like, I don't know. I mean, Big Duke, John Hopkins, I don't know.
Yeah. Good ones.
Really good ones. And, it led to a pretty good settlement, I'm pretty sure, for her. So, kudos to her. But yeah, this last one I've been working on, I'm kind of hoping that something comes of one. It scared me on a personal level because we're doing hormone therapy and we're doing all these other things. And she was the one that I couldn't make sense of the record because it looked fine. Couldn't make sense of what was going on other than some really wacky labs. And actually, I'd asked permission, from the medical team, I'll do a 3-way call so you hear what I'm asking, things like that. And they're like, no, you just call her, which I think we did do a 3-way call. I wasn't comfortable just talking one-on-one with the client. But yeah, once I talked to her, like to look at it, I really thought this lady was just squirrely, like that she was just looking for money. And then once she told me what her issues were, I was able to go back in there and yeah, she's right. I mean, she's probably got a case. It had to do with thyroid medicine, and she ended up in a coma and all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was. So, but I also gave them a list of, I need these records to help substantiate her claims from other physicians. And so I guess that's probably what they're working on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was one specific one that, when you were talking about speaking to the client that.
Yeah. The medical mal is a little odd to me just because I, my whole career has been dedicated to hospital care. I originally wanted to go to law school once I retired nursing to do that, to be the defender of hospitals. And then, right before COVID and when you get in senior leadership, you got, what would you say, jaded? I just saw a lot of stuff that from my own internal integrity, I did not like. And it really has, I wouldn't say soured me because that I can't use that, I can't write a report if I'm mad at the medical world, but it just made me open my eyes, just like with the whole law.
You're not soured. You just opened your eyes.
Just opened my eyes like it did with law enforcement. Like the justice system is skewed. It's kind of messed up. And so I kind of looked at that and thought, there are some issues here. And, the older you get and you look around, that it's all big money. It's all big money. And the nurses at the bedside are the ones that suffer. And so, if there's a way that I can help correct some of these issues that may or may not have been helped that would save people, then that's, great. Or go punitive if they deserve it. But as far as LNC, like I said, you could spend money to do it. I don't think you have to. It's going to take me a little while to get enough billable hours. Enough billable hours in order to sit for the boards. And so the boards would be, it's only 200 multiple choice questions. So
that's a lot.
I don't know. I was going to say, I was the last class that ever sat for the paper boards with nursing, and it was 3 days of 8 hours of questionnaires. Yeah. Well, now these nurses get on there and the computer may cut off after 75 questions.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world how'd you pass? But yeah, there's a couple books that are out there that are very, very helpful. It's Legal Nurse Consulting Principles, 3rd edition. It's by Ann Peterson and Linda Kopsky. There's a Practice and Principles. So there's 2 books. They're pretty pricey. Also, if you get on the AALNC organization website, you can be a member. They'll give you a discount for the program. They're modules that you'll have forever. It's all online. And it just helps you look at the format that attorneys want, what you would be looking at, what you are and are not allowed to do, because you kind of work under the attorney. You cannot give medical advice. You can only say, there's some issues here. This is what I think you need to question or focus on. And so that you're just giving guidance. That's it. But it's not advice. Like I can't say, we got a case. I mean,
right.
I can say, hey, there's some standards. There's some stuff that deviated here that's not the norm.
Really, truly like a consulting role.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Some people get paid by the hourly. Some do retainers. If you work for a practice, you would get paid hourly. And a lot of those nurses make around $55 to $60 an hour. Well, a 30-year veteran at a hospital makes almost that. So to me, that's why I never really went back to school, because it's not worth the degree. I won't get that return.
Right.
But if you freelance, you can do a lot more. And then if you are expert witness, your pay goes considerably higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gave me a note. We'll probably end on a funny story. So, just now kind of getting my feet wet, really rolling with the LNC thing. And, you try to do whatever, but I swear, I think it's the same case. It's probably not even went to trial, but same case. I don't know. But I got a phone call 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago.
It's been a while back.
Oh my God. I got a phone call 2 years ago, and I got asked, I think it was some type of assault. Obviously it was some type of assault case.
Sexual assault
case that would I be willing? I guess it depends on where do you draw your line for your dollars. I kind of drew the line, I have to say. I didn't actually at first. I said, okay. But I got
if I remember right, there wasn't a great explanation on why you needed to do this.
No. So the very first, the first phone call I got was to ask me on the sexual assault case. It was last minute, but is there any way possible I would drive to meet them with the person to visually inspect, I would guess, a penis. I cannot imagine the attorney's face that was trying to ask me that question on the other end of the phone. Of course, I'm laughing and was like, huh? So that was the question. I said, well, I guess so, but you're going to pay me mileage and hourly fee. And I'm thinking, how much is it going to cost you? So the only thing I can think of is maybe they were trying to describe circumcised versus uncircumcised. I don't know. I don't want to know because I never got the other phone call. They were like, well, let me check with the client. I'm thinking, you didn't even ask the client if you want me to come and inspect his junk. And I didn't hear back for a year.
Yeah.
And then I got a second phone call, different attorney asking. I mean, I literally thought it was you guys punking me. Asking if I would be willing to inspect somebody's junk on a sexual assault case. And I thought, no, I don't think this is for me. So I think I said no. It didn't work out time wise. I either was babysitting.
There was something that came up, and it was across the state. So it's not like you had to run to the next town over. I mean, this is 3 or 4 hours away.
Correct.
Each direction.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't a great explanation on why this is important. It literally, well, I went on the phone, but it's literally, can you drive out here and take a look at this guy's dick? And that was it.
You said dick.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sorry. Can you look at this guy's penis? And that's it.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you.
There was no, which I guess I shouldn't ask. I mean, I should just charge and go, but I'm just not that way. You know, I was kind of like, okay. I don't know.
But that gets back to that education point, right? So it goes both ways. They could have educated you on why this is important.
Well, I also don't think I can just go do that. Like there was no medical reason for that. Surely they had to have a subpoena for that because I mean I could get in trouble for that, you know. So I was just like, I don't know about that. But that leads into the other thing that legal nurse consultants do, and they're actually starting this a little bit more. Our DME visits, and I'd have to look up what DME stands for. It's not DME as in the medical equipment.
I was going to say,
yeah. Well, you and I have interchanged that a lot, but it is you're an observer. You're a trained observer. So when you have workman's comp issues and let's say they're put off work forever, this is a big one. I mean, it's starting to really, California, they're asking for it all the time. So when I'm on my group chats, they're like, is anybody in California this week that I need you to go on a DME visit? So what they're looking for is these companies are subcontracting out. I need to slow down. Mm-hmm. Subcontracting out to nurse consultants to attend these DME evaluations. So they're like a medical exam, like I can't remember what the D stands for, but anyway, that you're making sure from the insurance company perspective or disability or whoever that the examination is thorough, that they cover everything they need to cover to make sure there's no gaps in case it's a, judgment, because it's ultimately going to go to lawsuit, punitive damages, things like that. So they want you to attend those. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a big new thing. I've taken the class on it. You're not seeing that in Kentucky at all because I don't really know if it exists. I did have a friend that's what she did. The company, I don't know if they closed or what, but she did that for several years. She would just go. She'd be texting me like, "I'm on my way with a client visit," and that's all I knew. But she would go and actually. I don't even know if they had to be RNs, but they were medically trained that would just go and be like a third party observer to make sure that you're not just getting a doctor that's got you on the side writing you a script to stay off on disability forever. And so that was pretty interesting to me. And so that's kind of a big thing out in California right now. That's probably will get that way with us, but it's just an independent, impartial observer to make sure that everything's thorough and covered.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it also works on the insurance's behalf because you're also monitoring the client in case they're a pillhead or they're not really hurt or whatever, to where it's kind of impartial. And
kind of impartial observer to make sure the the evaluation's
that's all it is.
Proper.
So there's a guy that does, and if you get on the LNC groups on Facebook, there's a guy that does that training all the time. Like it's, $50 and you can sit through his little online training, and it's literally head to toe assessment, which if you've got a 4-year degree, you had to do all that, like more thorough in your bachelor's program. But no, that's all it is. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody trying to, I know we talked a little bit about it, but if they're trying to get into the thing you talked about, it's crowded and there's a lot of people. What would you say? What would you tell them to do?
I think it's very inundated with everybody trying to do it. Everybody wants to talk about, you need to go to conferences. Well, I can tell you when I was eager beaver and I just taken my little class, we paid a ton of money to go down to Nashville for the, what was it? It was an attorney conference or a regional attorney conference. And I thought, man, I got one contact out of that whole thing. Now, granted, he stuck with me some. But that's it. Nobody else wanted to talk to me. Nobody else wanted, they just passed our table. It was very hard to get our foot in the door. So it's not what everybody thinks. I mean, it's, unless you know somebody, a lot of times it's very difficult to get in there. Or if your plans are to go work for the man, and your pay scale will be low. I mean, it's going to be.
You mean go work for an attorney firm?
Yeah, it's going to be in the $50 an hour, $45 an hour. You're not going to make the $75 to $100 an hour you think you're going to. So that's a little bit of a challenge, and a lot of people that want to get into it immediately want to like, well, I'm just tired of the bedside. I think I'm going to get this job. Well, you're going to be hungry. You're going to be really hungry because, on average, in order to get 2,000 billable hours, they said it's roughly, if you were doing pretty good business, it's roughly about a 5-year time frame before you can sit for boards. Well, at this rate, I'm going to be 20 years before I can sit for boards.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that many billable hours. One, I'm not going to take on a case. It doesn't take me that long to evaluate them. So unless they're a really lengthy hospital stay, if it's just something like most of these little cases, they've been 4 and 8 hour readings and then preparing reports. The pediatric one was a 40-hour plus report time.
Yeah.
So I got a pretty good check out of that one. But most of them, I mean, I want to be good stewards of everybody's money. And so I try to glance really quick. And then if I find something as a general overview, then I can dive deeper, or I'll get in contact with that attorney and just stop and be like, listen, there's something here. Let me get you what I have. He can choose to let me go further, or he can go ahead and choose to get his expert. That way he spends his money better, or the client does, or whatever. I don't think it's a job that you could immediately quit your bedside nursing to open up your practice and be an LNC. It's not in Kentucky. I mean, unless you got better personality than, maybe you've got that marketing
better
potential
connection or whatever.
Yeah. It's really difficult.
Do you think that you have to have the certification to be effective?
No.
Yeah.
Not in the role that I'm choosing to use. I think
Right.
if you're an expert and you really want to dive in, absolutely, you need to have all those certifications. But you can't until you have 2,000 hours.
Right,
And so
right.
that's what's confusing. People are like, I need to LNC certified. Well, unless you get an old veteran that's been doing this for a while, everybody's trying to sit and test for it. We're not ready to do that. And so other people are just like, I just need you to explain what's going on. I'm not going to use you as an expert. Great. That's right up my alley.
Right.
I don't want to,
Right.
I don't want that pressure. I don't want that pressure.
And it seems like now these are my words, I'm not going to put you on the spot for it, but it just seems like that certification's awful expensive too. I mean, for the role that you're doing,
Well,
I don't know that you need that, and it's pretty pricey to get that.
from a nursing perspective, nurses will tell you that a lot of nurses eat their young. And I do find that once I get onto the websites, you've got somebody will ask a simple question like, and the groups are great. It's Legal Nurse Consulting on Facebook. There's groups like that. They'll get on there and they'll just bounce off ideas to somebody else. Hey, I've got this issue that I'm not really sure. What does this mean, or what should I look for? And you've got a lot of people, majority of the people want to help you, and I'll help you, try to look at this, try to look at that. And you've got a few seasoned, very professional that are probably making a lot of money, that's been doing this for a really long time, that eat their young. And I get very frustrated at a certain individual that's on that website that's constantly just chewing up and spitting out LNCs.
People that are trying to get started in it.
Yes. And so she's been around for a while, and she, other people say that she's a mentor, but I think she's just a mean person. I think she in general is mean. And so just take it with a grain of salt, because it's not all roses, but she's very critical of anybody that's starting out. And so that's frustrating. But,
it is frustrating.
But you see it at the bedside in hospitals all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're all used
really
to that, though, in the nursing world.
Yeah, but it's just frustrating because you're like, I'm just trying to get a leg in here. And so everybody has different things. She's probably a fantastic expert witness. I would hire her in a minute. I don't want to be her friend.
Right.
I would hire her in a minute because she knows her stuff. But, you also have to have some compassion with your colleagues that you're trying to help.
Yeah. Not everybody has that mentorship ability.
So don't let that discourage you. Like if you get on there, don't let it discourage you. As far as the AALNC, I think that's the most reputable group that's kind of governed. They actually they're the ones that has the board. There's a huge amount of resources in there. I want to say if you're a member, I think when I took the program, it was either 6 or 7 years ago. I think I paid $1,200. I just got online a minute ago, and it is literally a fortune. Like I just thought, who can do this? So it is Hang on, I'm pulling it up right now. It is for, if you're not a member of AALNC, it is $4,660.
Yeah.
If you're a member, which your member is going to be $300 or $400 probably, then it's $2,300.
And that's to take what?
The course.
The AALNC course?
Yeah. So it's probably like there's 27 modules. And it goes everything from the essentials of legal consulting, fundamentals, litigation, screening negligence claims, communication, how to talk to an attorney, researching literature, medical summaries, reports. I'm just literally reading from the website. Case analysis on personal injury, litigation, pharmaceuticals. God, I didn't even talk about tort. That'll be all day long, tort cases. And
so certainly valuable, but it doesn't equate to success on the back end of the course. It's just giving you some knowledge.
No. And so they're trying to really step up I've seen a lot of, after you do all this, I've seen a lot of presentations on how to build your marketing. There are a lot of LNCs that are now on social media that's where they're making their money, is trying to help you get your marketing better to get your business going. And so I'm seeing a big trend in that as well. But they have, that's the course. So if you're a member, it's like $2,300. You get all the modules. It's all online. They send you the books. The books are included, which I think they're probably $200 or $300 books on their own. Mm-hmm. They send you the books, and then you just learn as you go. And then there's already if I want to re-credential or whatever, once I sit for boards, updates and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was very educational. I'm glad I took it. I would not be able to afford the $2,300 now in today's money world.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it was affordable for me back then. I mean, it was still
still a lot of money.
A lot of money. But it's hard because if you're forking out that money and then all of a sudden, you're waiting 6 months for your first case.
Yeah, the golden ticket's not necessarily on the other side of that curriculum.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're trying to like module 27 is business principles and practices. So luckily for me, you already had your business established where I could just weasel my way in there and get my foot in the door, just like a lot of these girls do with attorney friends that will gladly take them on underneath their wing. But yeah, it's kind of cutthroat. I get a lot of emails from time to time of people just wanting to mentor, but the problem is I'd love to mentor them. I don't get enough cases that often to really keep them engaged, or there are cases that I get and I'm like, there's nothing here. Well, they didn't learn a thing.
Right.
So the biggest requirement is you have to have 5 years of bedside experience and an active RN license in the state that you're practicing. And
then you're going to have to hustle to educate attorneys on why they need you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so we're getting there.
We're getting there.
But yeah, it's been, I've really enjoyed it. I think timing in my life wasn't really right to where I could get focused 100% on it. I had a whole lot of irons in the fire, and now a lot of those are clear to where we can focus and start marketing again. For anybody that's interested, I really truly am more, I think I have better success, or definitely with this one case, of talking to the client themselves first. I will obviously put out there, I am not an attorney. I will not give advice whatsoever. But if I can expedite your medical records and start reviewing them to say, maybe, maybe not, and then go ahead and give you referrals to these other attorneys I would use, then we've already saved time and money for you to where you can spend that on the attorney, because I'm a fraction of what they cost, even for a consult fee.
Yeah.
I can get your chart review done for what an attorney consult fee would be.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So, for anybody that has any questions, you all can contact me at Stacy@dpjconsulting.com. Stacy with a STACY. There's no E in there. There's no I. It's just Stacy at dpjconsulting.com. Shoot me an email. Like I said, I'm just trying to grow the practice, and it's a whole different service line that you all at your company has to offer. I do like the criminal defense as well. I can work, also can work from the prosecution.
That's right.
So I'm open to any of it. It's just what I found the most successful route, as I'm learning as I go, was meeting with the client first, getting everything tied up in a nice, pretty little bow to present to whatever attorney they choose.
Yeah.
And that's been very successful for the family.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, certainly.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah. So, Stacy's done really good for us from our investigative agency firm, because it's just something different that we're the only firm that I know of. And that's been confirmed by several other people that said, I have never heard of this before. So it's given us a neat little advantage that we can market. And so, maybe that's an idea from my point of view is if you're listening and you're a nurse and you want to get into that, maybe you partner with your local private investigator that does criminal defense. There's an angle for you to sit down in partnership and negotiate out what that looks like between you.
And of course, I'm always looking for people that are willing to be expert witnesses because this old girl is not. So I've had LinkedIn's been wonderful to get. I've had physicians reach out to me. I've got people in all different specialties that send me their CV and a fee schedule. That's people are very, very proprietary about what they charge and what they don't charge. But that's one thing we have to give to attorneys when we say, here's this expert. They have to have that fee schedule as well as your credentials before they even will give you a second look. So if you are in any type of specialty that you're very comfortable and want to send me your stuff, because I'd love to have my arsenal of from pediatric to geriatric to PM&R and whatever, ICU, any of that stuff. So love it all. Just send it to me at Stacy@dpjconsulting.com. Yeah,
there's a lot of value in the network for sure. Of course, you have her email address there, but you can go to our website, dpjconsulting.com. You'll find information about the company as a whole, Stacy and her role as a nurse consultant. Of course, you can find ways to contact us there, but connect with her. We also want to hear from you, what you think of this, any comments or questions that you may have. So feel free to send those in too. And as always, we appreciate every like, follow, share, download, all those things for each of the episodes that we have. So we appreciate you listening.
All right.
Yeah. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.